Access to justice sort of looks at the world and looks at the 2 billion people that currently don't have access to legal services, can't afford to speak to a lawyer, or live in a country where, you know, they're just blocked from the general legal process. So what Access to Justice aims to do is to try and bring the same legal services that someone might get when spending money at a lawyer or at a law firm, and bring it to those people. And that becomes a really big ecosystem. You'll find community paralegals, you'll find law clinics, you'll find pro bono lawyers, and then a lot of innovators in the space as well.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that, outside of a dog, is a lawyer's best friend.
What about inside a dog?
It's too dark to see. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am Jake Sanders, and he is Paul Julius, and together we are hosting this show via a Ouija board.
We are now patching the spirit realm into the podcast. Getting a signal. Jake, I'm seeing you in a hospital?
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with windows where sick people go, but that's not important right now.
Paul, let the spirits guide us. Tell everyone what's coming up on the show.
On the show today, we talk about technology and access to justice with an article from tocivility.org. And then we go deep on A to J, tech, collaboration, and more with Baobab Connect founder Guy Stern. And then we attempt to determine our guest's true nature with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet today is from tocivility.org. They donated a dish. The chef, Mark Palmer. The title, Where
Hot
does
dish.
tech... It's a hot dish. Where does technology fit in access to justice? Question mark. I'll read the intro and then we'll provide some hot takes. So this is Mark's starter. Many people don't seek legal assistance because they simply don't know they need legal help. They don't realize they have a legal problem that has a legal solution. This education gap is where the access to justice issue begins, but isn't where it should end. Can technology help improve access to justice? The big question here in all of the legal tech companies is this plucking of the string of, you know, we're increasing access to justice. Everyone says there's more justice than ever, more access than ever, free range justice. Everything's just, do you want it? Here, plenty of justice around with legal tech solutions. But my hot take is, and we talked to Guy later about adoption of tech solutions is the real key here. And that's the hill that people climb. We're at a marketing phase of the legal tech, maybe hype cycle, where it's a lot of aspiration, but very rarely are people delivering on the access to justice problems. And Guy Stern is, with his company Baobab Connect, using something that's similar to the business models of lawyers we've had on the show, like Aaron Levine, Jess Birkin, Autumn Witt Boyd, alternative ways to deliver services with a lawyer touch. You know, a lot of this stuff just says, oh, you can have a chat bot that's running with machine learning, but really, you know, people want to talk to lawyers. Access to justice isn't just justice. It's also access to lawyers, too. They kind of want lawyers. So my hot take is there is a way for legal tech to create an access. And Mark is hitting on a lot of great ideas here that we should be building a bridge to information and justice. And that's why I love tocivility. That's why I chose this. My hot take is that it's there, but I want to see adoption rates that match the tenacity of it. You know, so what's your thought there?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually that kind of leads into what I was getting out of this one. there's a portion of this article where it says experienced practitioners may forget that the legal system can be confusing and scary to navigate without an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
When faced with unknowns, many give up before even starting. The high number of default judgments across the country is one testament to such failed just relief. And above that, it says, there's this, we have a long way to go. For instance, over 90% of Americans have a smartphone, yet only 1% have a legal services app.
Mm-hmm.
We were chatting a little bit about this before, and I'm starting to wonder if this is like a demographics thing. And for example, my parents are boomers. They're good though. They're not the
we all have bad apples.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ride down the politics road here.
Totally
but,
right.
They're and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. They're on Facebook, but they don't do Facebook on their phone. All right. They may use a service, but be put off. Like if they were going to order something online, they're a little more comfortable with it now, but they would actually, ask me like, hey, is it okay to, is this site okay? Is it okay to do this? Whereas like if I'm ordering something from someplace and they're like, set up an account, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll just use my spam email and blah, blah, blah. It's just second nature. So, there may be some barriers here that are actually even before the access to justice part of it, where it's like we're just looking at a group of people who just aren't as adapted and comfortable sharing a certain level of information online.
And what's so great is you're talking about the client side and their issues about using tech. And then
you can make whatever solution you want. If people don't use it, it doesn't matter. It could be the greatest thing in the world.
And great point. Guy outlines that in a much more eloquent way too, in regards to lawyers adopting tech. And that's why I added this Florida Bar opinion survey result. That one of the questions they asked in 2017 was, do you currently use a client secure portal in your practice to communicate with your clients? Yes, 14%. No, 62%. Not sure was 24%.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is I'm wondering if there's this perception there that that's not cool to do with a lawyer. Like people aren't just or it is. It
is with Hello Divorce. It is with Birkin Law Firm. It is if you have an IP question and you're with Autumn Witt Boyd, but maybe that's because they match their demographics and their audience is coming for it because just to your point, you can have a great solution, but it doesn't mean people are going to show up. It isn't like sugar and flies or a light and a moth. It's a lot more hard work.
The other thing is that in general, it's just so much hassle. It's scary. It's confusing. It's complicated. The law is not. It's not. And this isn't the lawyer's fault. You know what I mean? The law is complicated. It's not getting less complicated. And once you start to put these things in, like, well, I think of it from the client side, I guess, and I guess that would be my whole hot take on this is have some empathy for people who maybe aren't so familiar with the different steps here, because it's most of the time if people are coming to a lawyer, believe me, they've exhausted the easy options,
right?
And if there's more barriers, or I had to create this thing, I had to put this thing on my phone, right. I think there needs to be just a really hard, honest look at, is the way this is going to work. I mean, the technology itself is amazing. And some of the things that we're seeing, we talked to Guy about it later, are really, truly, very landscape changing innovations. But if it doesn't fit into what the, majority of the non-legal, maybe only need a lawyer once or twice in their life public,
which is the majority of people forever.
Right. Then it just won't get adapted no matter how great it is.
Yeah. It's a great point. And it's something that Mark ends his piece on, and we'll end it here too, and then jump into Guy, because Guy's working with lawyers and legal aid societies and programs and projects in South Africa, and connecting them with not only the education to figure out if they have an issue, but also, video chats with actual lawyers so they can help handle those, more complex problems. Because you say it's an education issue. Well, now people are educated. They still need help, so it's a question of helping them pass that. And I think what you said, about the client-centered approach, that's something that Clio is doing. That's something that Legal Tech is heading towards, that money. Guy is reading Jack Newton's book, The Client-Centered Law Firm. So we could only hope that there's a lean towards client, centered experiences at our law firms. But, the idea here is that maybe these lawyers are too intimidated to adopt the client-facing practices. And that's what Mark ends with, and that's what we'll end here and go to the interview with Guy. He says, even if someone recognizes their problem has a legal solution in the marketplace, they may be too intimidated to pursue it. Luckily, many are exploring how to use technology to break down access to justice barriers.
Lawson continues. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Since 1999, ConsultWebs has been helping law firms connect with clients on the web, connect digital marketing success with firm success, and connect their business goals to proven strategies that help them get the most out of their legal marketing. Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
Let's head over to the interview.
Guy Stern is the CEO of Baobab Connect, a decentralized legal case management platform for lawyers and paralegals in South Africa that provides legal aid and access to justice projects, a set of tools to track cases, manage teams, and measure impact at scale. Guy got his Bachelor of Computer Science degree from the University of Cape Town, has been CEO and founder of several other successful ventures in the legal tech space, and now brings his full sweet stack of skills to the Lawsome podcast. Guy, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. I think that's the first time I've ever been introduced quite like that. It's quite an honor.
Well, you know what? I'll put some applause behind here. We can put fireworks in the distance because the stuff you're doing with Baobab Connect is really powerful. And a lot of people talk about legal tech solving access to justice, but you guys are really doing it. Can you give us a brief pitch, your elevator pitch for Baobab Connect?
Sure. Well, in order to introduce Baobab Connect, I'll quickly introduce what access to justice is, because it's quite a big field, and I'll give you my sort of take on access to justice, and then we can take it from there. So access to justice sort of looks at the world and looks at the 2 billion people that currently don't have access to legal services, can't afford to speak to a lawyer, or live in a country where they're just blocked from the general legal process. So what access to justice aims to do is to try and bring the same legal services that someone might get when spending money at a lawyer or at a law firm, and bring it to those people. And that becomes a really big ecosystem. You'll find community paralegals, you'll find law clinics, you'll find pro bono lawyers, and then a lot of innovators in the space as well. So Baobab Connect looks at that entire space, and we sort of tackle the human cloud component. So we say, how can we bring people together in these online chat rooms so that problems can get solved, so that a client can go to a community paralegal, the community paralegal can link with a public interest litigator or a pro bono lawyer, and through that human cloud, through bringing different people together in online chats, helping them to share files and to have conversations, we can sort of bring access to justice and amplify the impact of these organizations.
And so
does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense, and I very concise. But your previous company, which is now a part of this Legal Connect, is it Legal Connections? What's the other
Legal
company?
Connection.
Yes. So explain how that case management software sort of drives the access to justice initiatives behind Baobab Connect.
Well, it's a funny story. So I created Legal Connection after I set up my own Find a Lawyer marketplace. So originally I set up a Find a Lawyer marketplace where customers and lawyers would meet. And I quickly realized that the customers and lawyers, we could put them together, but email wasn't a very good medium for them to continue the conversation. So we built an initial product called Legal Connection. And then one day I was invited to join the Global Legal Hackathon. This was back in 2018. And we were told, let's do something in access to justice. And I didn't really know what access to justice meant. So I looked it up, and our initial idea was videos as a means for access to justice, partially because my friend Lucian was a video editor and he was joining me at the hackathon. And we thought, what if we made videos that could teach people to do their own sort of legal cases? So if you had a divorce, you could watch a tutorial video and do your own divorce. If you needed an eviction, you could do the same. And so we created these videos and we landed up winning the hackathon, or we placed second in the hackathon. And then we won the Hill Innovating Justice Challenge in 2018, which had us go to The Hague early last year.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was quite an amazing journey, actually. And when I got to The Hague, I broke the news to them that these videos weren't working too well. So we would send someone a video, let's say they needed to do an eviction, and then they would watch the video and then they'd come up with a question. They'd say, okay, I understand your video, but in my case, it's different because the property's in my mother's name. And actually, I don't know if my mother left me the property. And actually, it's a wills issue. And actually, it's a family law issue. And so people in the legal industry will obviously know this. Every case is different and they become quite complicated quite quickly. And actually, almost everyone that we spoke to wanted to be linked with a lawyer. So they'd watch our video and then they'd say, can I chat to that lawyer, the one that's in the video? And we would sort of create these little WhatsApp groups where we'd connect the client and the lawyer. And that, became sort of the system that we used. So when I got to The Hague last year, I said to them, I had to go and pitch on stage in front of chief justices and attorney generals at the Peace Palace. And I said to them about 5 days before the pitching contest, listen, I don't want to pitch this video idea because it doesn't want to work. I want to pitch this idea that we're going to take these people and the community paralegals and the pro bono lawyers, and we're going to connect them in these chat rooms, which look a bit like WhatsApp groups, but function like what you'd expect from a legal case management product. And they sort of looked at me like I was crazy, because they'd already flown me off across the world to talk about why videos are, the answer to access to justice. But they trusted me, and that's what I pitched on stage, and that's what I've been building for the last year.
Oh my God.
And so that's Baobab Connect. It's a mixture between Baobab, which was the name of the video project, and Legal Connection, which is the name of the case management tool. And yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
Thinking about tech in the legal space, there's a recent Bar Association survey poll of lawyers, 2017. They were asked, what type of litigation support software do you use at your law firm? 92% had none. 94% had no e-discovery support software. 64% had no case management program. I mean, it's odd. We're living in this world where it's a buffet of legal tech solutions, but it seems like nobody's getting a ladle and plating up, and there's like a barrier here. But and you're in South Africa. I mean, it's different in America. And as you said, if this is a global problem, access to justice, not only prevented from regulations, market dynamics, education, like your videos were attempting to, address. All of these legal tech solutions are here. Why aren't lawyers using them? I mean, people are still using pen and paper. Not
sure.
to
Look,
disrespect the Luddites, but speak on that.
I've got some pretty strong opinions on the subject, so I'm glad you asked the question. I approach this more from a computer science perspective than from a legal tech perspective. So, I joined this industry not as a lawyer, but as someone from the technology industry. And we look at adoption as another sort of hurdle that you have to go across. And so, when I started, even when I was just connecting lawyers and customers in the early days of my journey along legal tech, I realized one thing, which is that you can have the most incredible piece of software, and that includes legal tech software, and you can send an email to a lawyer saying, please will you try this product, please will you test it, please will you use it, and they never will. They'll say, I'm busy this week, I'll try it next week, They're so busy, even though it's a product that's going to make their life easier, they won't. But there is something that they will do, which is the following. If you send them an email and say, I've got a case for you, I've got a client for you, click this button and you'll be in the case. Then they'll click the button. It doesn't matter if it's the most clunky, difficult to use software. It doesn't matter if it takes 3 pages and they have to upload PDF files, and they will jump through so many hoops to use a piece of software if it comes with a case. That's the carrot at the end of the stick. That really became part of my thinking as I was designing this product, is how do we create a product that works a little bit more like Dropbox? You all remember how you first got introduced to Dropbox. You were probably sent an email by someone saying, Gary wants to share this particular folder, click here, and you'd quickly sign up for Dropbox, and then you'd be in and you'd be using it on your computer, and then you'd be more likely to use it ongoing. So with Legal Connection and with Baobab Connect, what we do is we encourage these lawyers to invite each other for the sake of a case. So you'll be working on a case and you'll send an email to a friend of yours saying, I need your help on this case. Or in the idea of access to justice, you'll be working at a law clinic and you'll send a note to a pro bono lawyer or to someone that you need help with on the case, and they'll get the email and they'll be asked to join that case. And at that point, they're then in the product. And the product, it's a chat application with case management on top of it. So it works a little differently to what you'd imagine from your average case management system, which feels a bit more like a CRM, something that you need to use after you've done the work, something you need to use after you've chatted to the client. So because we're bundling the case management on top of the communication, it becomes much easier to get the adoption up.
Switching gears a little bit, talking about project management, coding, computer science, marketing, lawyers in the future are going to be busy trying to select the right skill to scale up on, both personally and professionally. And it seems like you got a lot of those skills and you teach a lot of those clinics. So what's your advice here?
Yeah, look, definitely, I would say coding and project management and all these things are incredibly important. But I think what lawyers miss, and again, this speaks back to access to justice, but just legal tech in general, is understanding what clients need. So I would say if a lawyer's got 1 or 2 hours free in the afternoons on a particular day in the week, one thing that they can do is just speak to clients and ask the clients, what do you expect? What do you expect from my industry? What what worked for you? Did you like the emails back and forth? Did you like the meeting that we had? Do you expect me to answer the phone better? What are you getting from Airbnb and from Netflix and from every other sort of application that you use and every other service that you use in this world that you're not getting from me? And I think lawyers, really need to sort of think outside of what legal tech offers at the moment and think about what sort of the adjacent industries are offering. And that's a starting point.
Wow. And then through that, you might be able to better define, maybe this is a job for computer science. Maybe this is a marketing problem or an education problem. It's interesting that you're pushing videos and The Hague was interested and then you sort of pull the rug out. But education isn't enough. Do you think that is something that's transferable to lawyers here? Just knowing that this stuff is here isn't enough. You're saying the way you solve it with Baobab Connect is by saying, here's a case. People are really oriented towards those actions. I mean,
I think what I did with Baobab Connect is I sort of put myself in the client's shoes because I am a client. And I thought to myself, what would I want to do? If I've got a choice between contacting a lawyer and getting them to work for me or finding a tutorial on the internet which teaches me to do this myself, which one will I take? And it, initially, it made sense for me to go with a tutorial because I'm a techie and that's what we do. So I'm not saying that is what you should do. There's plenty of space for lawyers in the world, but lawyers need to kind of find themselves as accessible as something like a tutorial or, like an online resource. So that's the one thing that I think lawyers need to do is put themselves in the shoes of the client and think about the legal profession from outside of the legal profession. And then, like you say, anyone can change the world. Anyone can create the next big innovation. It could be a lawyer, it could be a technologist. And there's nothing stopping lawyers from coming to the Global Legal Hackathon or joining legal hackers or interacting with technologists. But they need to be creating the right products. And that means not necessarily looking at the product from the lawyer's perspective, because the last 10 years of legal tech was all about solving the lawyer's problems. I think the next 10 years of legal tech will be about solving the client's problems. And so you're asking me what a lawyer can do. The first thing they need to do is put themselves in the shoes of the client.
I mean, and you don't expect it. You think the answer is going to be download this, neural network.
Yeah, code up a blockchain.
Right. Climb up the blockchain. But speaking about AI, machine learning, Baobab Connect was recently accepted into the Microsoft AI for Good program. What is this? And more importantly, how do you define AI, going forward? It's there, it's omnipresent. And talk about how you guys are kind of tapping into this. And then this program, because of course you want AI for good. Is there a corollary, the AI for bad? You don't want that.
Yeah, well, before I discuss AI for bad, let's discuss AI for good. So what I like to remind people when it comes to AI, because everyone wants to jump on this AI train, and when it comes to access to justice, when you think of AI, the first thing you think about is creating some sort of a chatbot, some sort of a little program that's going to be able to answer every question that someone has, and in that way solve their justice concern. And AI is not there yet. AI is a car, and in order to run your car, you need to put petrol in the car. And so petrol is the data. And what we are able to do with Baobab Connect is we're able to start to look at conversations. And I'm not saying look at them, as in look at the personal details. I mean, just look at the conversations that are flowing through our system. So because we've created a communication platform for legal professionals, and because the entire case is now running through one communication, everything from the start of the conversation between the lawyer and the client, and then how long it takes, and who needs to be connected to the lawyer in order to make it work, you can start to get a lot of really good data, and then you can use that data to predict how the next case is going to run. So we're working with an NGO in South Africa who wants to help the 500,000 kids in the country who don't have an ID number, and they don't have a birth certificate. So what they're doing is they're helping the first 100 or 200 using this product. And then the product can start to read those conversations and start to predict what comes next. And then it can sort of jump in like a little Slack bot and say, hey guys, have you thought of doing this? Or, 97% of the cases that we solved did that. And you can start to use AI to supplement the lawyer-human interaction. And that's something that we're experimenting with, and Microsoft have been really kind to offer us the space at the Microsoft Reactor here in London, and we're going to be working on this over the next 4 months. It's not an easy problem to solve, but it's where we're going next with Baobab Connect.
Would people in other places of the world be able to start doing this? Are you thinking about branching this out?
Well, we've funny enough, we've got law firms in the United States using the product. We've got law firms in South Africa, and we've got them here in the UK, and it's a global product. Our company name is Connecting the World, and we believe that access to justice is a product that's going to span over continents and over countries, and where what we've done is not specific to one jurisdiction or to one style of law, but it's a sort of a horizontal approach for the legal profession. So yeah, definitely, if someone's sitting in the USA or in Canada or wherever you are, and they want to use our product, please get in touch with me, and we'll chat.
So I have a question for you about
Sure.
the startups and things. I mean, you are an amazing serial entrepreneur, and you're just, it's just like idea to execution to product, bam, out there. Have you run into any kind of stumbling blocks with that, particularly focused to legal? Because we have had a lot of guests who are like, oh, this startup culture, you can't translate it into legal services or legal tech, or when you try to, it doesn't pan out because the investors don't get it and the lawyers don't get it. So I guess, have you run into anything, or are there any particularities that you've noticed with doing things that are particularly focused on legal?
Look, I think legal is a tricky industry. It's one that, as you say, lawyers are resistant to change. The legal profession is resistant to change, and when they do change, the change often comes from within the law firm. So there's obviously challenges, but all those challenges are a really good thing for a startup founder. We're in Silicon Valley, sort of 2.0 or 3.0, where the easy problems have been solved, and what's left are the tricky problems. And this is one of the tricky problems. And you can say what you want about the solution space, but legal tech hasn't been solved yet. The user experience of it hasn't been solved. You cited stats which show that most of the lawyers are still using pen and paper. So that's a really good thing for us. Humans also haven't got to Mars yet. So there's lots of problems that haven't been solved. This is one of them. And
good point.
If a problem exists which hasn't been solved, it's just looking for someone to solve it. And I spent the last few years, and I'm going to spend the next few years working at hacking away at this particular problem. I don't see it as a bad thing. And the venture capitalists that we meet, they understand that the problem exists. There's a lot of money that goes into big law, as you probably know. Most of the investment dollars sort of land up going to products which then get consumed by the biggest law firms, and the biggest law firms then try to roll it out in the sort of pyramid structure, which doesn't necessarily translate to access to justice. But I think that there is a huge opportunity in the space that I'm working, which is smalls, mediums, solos, access to justice, law clinics. I think that is the big wave. That's where the real innovation still needs to come. And I've heard that on your podcast as well. You, I think, have said the biggest innovation is going to come from the small guys rising up, and that's something that inspired me.
How can people find you on the internet, Guy, and learn more about Baobab Connect?
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn just like everyone else. Being a startup founder, I work pretty much all day except for when I'm sleeping. So chances are, if they connect with me, I'll take the time to make a meeting with them. Looking forward to speaking to as many people as I can.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Oh no, I barely read books, but I had one that I was reading, which is I think it's called the User-Centered Law Firm. Yeah, I'm more of a podcast person. I listen to like 3 or 4 a day. I speed through them. Yeah, I think it's called the User Experience Centered Law Firm, but I could be wrong.
Cool.
The Client Centered Law Firm. There you go. The Client Centered Law Firm. I read the first chapter just a couple hours ago.
Good. All right, cool.
Makes a lot of sense.
All right, number 2. What is your favorite place?
My favorite place? I love London, where I am right now. This is people say it's freezing cold, but I love the venture capital environment. I love the innovation that's happening here. It's like a Silicon Valley 2.0. This is where I want to be. Very happy here.
Nice. Number 3. What sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
Well, everyone says it, but I listen to you guys. You're the number 1 on my list. I listen to the Making Sense podcast with Sam Harris, Jason Calacanis. I listen to the 20-Minute VC, a lot of them. And I do something called podfasting. Podfasting, when you listen to it on double speed or 2.5 speed.
Yep.
So I often listen to you guys a little sped up.
Really? So does it speed, like, does it totally do it? So we sound like chipmunks?
No. They've improved the technology. It keeps it on the same pitch, but it speeds.
So it's more like auctioneers.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. All right, number 4. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
It would have to be Indonesian sweet soy sauce.
Nice.
That sounds nice.
That's a great answer. Really nice. Okay, last one, number 5. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
I love going to the movies, the cinema. I like those lie-down seats where you get to like put your feet all the way up. For me, that's the best way to forget about work for a couple hours.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsonpodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawson.